Hey everybody, welcome to Jewels of the Trade. Today we're going to be talking about natural versus treated jade, looking at side-by-side comparisons and explaining why at-home jade tests are not reliable. Bring your best guesses about which is which and all of your questions about natural jade, treated jade, jade simulants, and jade testing to the chat or the comments if you're watching this after the fact. We'll be discussing the two jades, both Jadeite Jade and Nephrite Jade, in this video, as well as really fun simulants of both. I want to hit the ground running and give a quick answer to the folks at home who are watching this video, stone in hand, wondering if they have real jade. But then I really want to dive deeper and explain why so many of the at-home tests that you read about on the internet are super unreliable. So while we take a look at these three Bs, start naming home jade tests in the chat. Just any home test, whether it's useful or not, just start naming them off. Give me a bunch of names of jade tests and I'll debunk them after we reveal what these Bs actually are. So as you're looking at this, do you kind of have an idea of which one's which? What do you think this is? Do you think this is natural? Do you think it's treated jade? Do you think it's a simulant? I'll give you a hint. None of these three Bs that we're looking at right now are a simulant, okay? So they actually are all technically they're jade. So back to this. Nice opaque, good green color, kind of mottled. Sure looks like it could be natural, right? What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. And let me know what you think this is, if you think it's natural or treated. And also start naming off home jade tests. I want to be sure that we can just kind of roll through a bunch of them, answer all of your questions about at-home jade testing, and really get down into the nitty-gritty. What about this one? What do you think this is? Do you think this is natural? Do you think it's treated? It's one of the same three that we looked at just a minute ago. Great color. Look at that vein of rich green going through it. What do you think? Tell me in the chat if you think it's natural or treated. And then finally, look at that gummy lifesaver-like translucency. What do we think this is, everybody? Do we think it's natural? Do we think it's treated? It looks kind of like a simulant, but it's not. I'm telling you, of these three Bs here, none of them is actually a simulant. They're all a kind of jade. Jadeite Jade, actually. So let's go ahead with the reveal. Let's start with this one. This sure looks real. Great color, opaque and mottled. It's not perfect, right? It's a little bit flawed. This is B Jade. B Jade is Jadeite Jade that has been acid bleached and then impregnated with either polymer, wax, or resin. And the thing about B Jade is that to start out, back before it was B Jade, it was really low quality, below commercial quality Jadeite Jade. So it was probably very pale in color. It was probably highly fractured. Those fractures were not made better, right, when it was impregnated with polymer, wax, or resin. The pressure of pushing all that polymer into the stone probably made those fractures worse. Something to know about B Jade. It is more brittle than natural Jadeite Jade. It is not as durable as natural Jadeite Jade. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Not really a surprise here. This one is natural Jadeite Jade from Mason K. This is a beautiful, high quality, vivid green disc. I absolutely love the look of this. And I would have thought if you'd showed this to me by itself, I would have been like, that's absolutely natural, no doubt in my mind. But when you compare it to that B Jade one, it kind of makes you question things. It makes you realize how hard it is to actually tell the difference. And then the third B is actually B+C Jade, but I wanted to talk about this a little bit because it looks a lot like dyed green quartz. I mean, a lot. Typically, dyed green quartz is going to have that kind of lifesaver, juicy, translucent look to it. And this is kind of like that, but it actually is B+C Jade, and we know that because Mason K in Colorado actually did test it. They were able to detect dye as well as polymer impregnation. So B+C Jade means that it was Jadeite Jade. It is still Jadeite Jade. It was Jadeite Jade that was pale, maybe kind of fractured. It wasn't good enough for jewelry. And then they acid bleached it, polymer, wax, or resin impregnated it, and dyed it. So that's like the C in B+C Jade actually means dye. This is the most common treatment that you'll see today. You're going to see B+C Jade a lot more than you're going to see just regular B Jade. Okay, so let's check the chat and see if you guys have suggested any at-home tests. What are some at-home Jade tests that we like to talk about? I know that a lot of people bring up the ping test. The ping test is when you hang a bangle by a string and then you tap it with a harder object. If it sings out this beautiful, like ping kind of sound, then that could be a sign that it's natural jadeite jade, right? Maybe not. So I'm going to go ahead and play the ping sound for you. This is from an older video of mine. So it really is a beautiful sound, and a lot of times, like, if you have jade, you kinda get to know that sound when pieces of jade touch each other, they'll sing out that beautiful sound. But the thing is that, yes, unfractured natural jadeite jade will ping. And the reason that we mention that in the greater conversation about jade testing is because if it's B jade, or B+C jade, which has been polymer, wax, or resin impregnated, that impregnation will actually interfere with the sonority and you won't get the beautiful ping sound. So it'll sound like that, right? One more time. That was fun for me. So when you have B Jade, it's not going to have that beautiful, like, ringing sound. So if you know for a fact that your translucent, unfractured jadeite jade bangle is definitely jadeite jade, like you've tested it and you know that it's not quartz, it can be a really, really good indicator, right? But if you haven't tested it to find out if your jade is actually jadeite jade, right, using like a refractometer or something like that, then it could actually be quartz. Dyed green quartz will have sonority if it's highly translucent, if it hasn't been impregnated with polymer, wax, or resin. So, guys, what are some other like really common at-home tests that you hear about in the jade world? Let's take a look. Oh, Dake has a question. How come emerald is allowed to have oil infusion? Ruby and sapphire can get heat treated, but they're not called fake. So that brings up a really great topic. Treated jade should not be called fake. Treated jade is not fake jade. Quartz is like fake jade if it's being sold as jade. We use these terms really loosely, and we should actually be a little bit more careful, I think, when we speak about it. So natural jade means that it's untreated. Treated jade means that it's treated. And then a simulant is a non-jade stone posing as jade, such as dyed green quartz, right? So the real versus fake thing, I think that it's very common when you're Google searching, or like if you walk into a store and you have the question, like, is this real or fake? That's an easier question if you don't have a grand frame of reference for jade treatments and simulants. But we should not refer to treated jade as fake. And then that goes the same with emerald and sapphire and everything else. We do sort of categorize jade a little bit differently because most emeralds are going to be treated in some way. And a lot of times that's for stability. So that's so that the stone will hold up better for everyday wear. And then it's actually pretty common too for like types of corundum like ruby and sapphire to be treated. And it's not necessarily looked at as a bad thing. And it doesn't necessarily compromise the stone. In fact, some stones that are treated are actually stronger or more durable because of the treatment. In the case of jade, though, jade is made worse with treatment. Well, maybe not worse than it was in its original condition, which wasn't gem quality, but it's worse comparatively to a gem quality jadeite jade stone. So, for instance, natural gem quality jadeite jade is going to be so much tougher and more durable than B jade or B+C jade. What else do we have? Only oh, why? Thank you for noticing. This is for sale. It's not mine. It's from Mason K. Huge shout out to Mason K. They sent me a bunch of beautiful pieces that I'm going to be showing in upcoming lives, and they actually supplied most of the pieces that we're looking at today. So Mason K does not sell treated jade, and they do not sell jade simulants, but they happen to have some on hand from their years and experience of testing and using examples for customers. So they did share some of their treated and simulant jade that is not for sale. I cannot stress enough that Mason K does not sell treated jade. Ooh, Okay, Nathan, specific gravity and hardness testing. Okay, Nathan's got a whole bunch of them. Let's start with specific gravity. So, specific gravity is a totally legitimate way to test jade, but it's not 100% reliable. So, in the case of specific gravity in water, I can't speak to that. Like, I know some people will take jade and they'll put it in water, and I don't know as much about that because at GIA they didn't teach us about specific gravity testing with water. They taught us about specific gravity testing with specific gravity liquid. So this is what Jeff Mason, the owner of Mason Kate Jade, has to say about specific gravity. So Jadeite Jade specific gravity is 3.34, so it'll sink in methyl iodide liquid because it's heavier. B Jade might rise. So like if you drop it into the liquid, it might lift to the top, whereas the natural jade might sink to the bottom. But this isn't like universally true. So while this is a great tool for a gemologist to use, it's not it's not as reliable as other tests. It's one of the many tests that a gemologist should perform for the sake of thoroughness. And I would advise, like, one of the reasons that we don't encourage home testing is because just testing a stone one way usually isn't really enough. Like a lot of gemologists that I know, they will test a stone with 3 or 4 different methods just to be sure, because sometimes tests aren't 100% reliable. Okay, Mohs hardness testing. That is something we're going to get into in this video. We're going to show some examples of hardness testing. The problem that you might run into with hardness testing is that jadeite jade, whether it is natural or treated, will have the same hardness or resistance to scratching. So they'll test the same with the hardness test. So it won't distinguish natural from treated jade. Additionally, quartz, which is one of the most common, if not the most common simulant of jadeite jade, it is as hard or harder than jadeite jade. So the hardness kit might not always be useful in that scenario because it can't necessarily distinguish between natural and treated or jade and quartz. And that's what we're going to run into. One of the main reasons that we don't encourage at-home tests is because a lot of the tests that like might be able to distinguish jade from serpentine won't be able to distinguish jade from quartz. Jade and quartz have a lot of similarities. The cold test is another really good one, but pretty much any gemstone can be cold. So that's something that we hear a lot, but it's not a reliable test. Nathan, these are also great. Yeah, heavier than a similar stone. Again, like if you're just kind of going off of how it feels, that's if you're not used to handling a lot of jade, the weight test is not going to be super reliable. What else do we have? Black light. Oh, see, that's a good one too. We're going to talk about the black light test a little bit in this video. So, the pieces that I showed, the 3 Bs, I'm going to show them again. So, it goes B jade, natural jade in the middle, and then B+C jade on the right. None of them fluoresced under a UV light. So, and one of them did have dye. So, yes, that is a method. And let's say you have a piece that will fluoresce and you shine a UV light on it and it glows super, super bright. Amazing. That, yes, you have a treated piece. However, it should be noted that natural jadeite jade is usually coated with a thin coating of beeswax and it will fluoresce slightly. So don't confuse the slight fluorescence with the really, really bright fluorescence. And then also don't think that because it didn't fluoresce that rules out treatment, because like I said, a lot of treated jades don't fluoresce. And to be honest, I don't have footage of any treated jade that does fluoresce. And I've handled quite a bit of treated jade. So did I lose you guys? Am I still here? Can you still see me? I feel like my internet is having some problems again. I swear. We called AT&T. I thought we fixed this. I'm not really sure what happened. Let's take a look at the chat. Fluorescent is treated, but not fluorescent. Yeah, exactly. So the fluorescence, if it's really, really bright, means that it's treated for sure. So, but I don't know if you guys have, if you know this, but like they're actually taking a lot of quartz nowadays and they're impregnating quartz with polymer. So I'm not sure why they're doing that, but anyways, if it fluoresces, that might not necessarily mean that it's B jade. It just means that if it's fluorescing really bright, that it's not natural jadeite jade. Okay, yay, you can see me. Awesome. So I guess it's just glitchy on my end. I don't know what's happening. Hey, if my stuff goes down, will you guys just like let me know? Just like holler in the chat and be like, Jordan, we can't see you. You're gone. So let's go ahead and take a look at these pieces. So one of these is natural jade. One of these is treated jadeite jade, and one of these is a simulant. Do you guys know which one is which? What do you think? We're going to look at all of these individually, and when we do, I want you to let me know in the chat which one you think is which. And it's actually pretty hard to tell. Let's get started with this. What do we think this is? Looking closely, it's a pretty crude carving, but to be honest, crude carving can be a sign of B Jade if it looks really high quality, because usually when you have really high quality jadeite jade, they're going to have really skilled carvers work on that. So it's a little weird to see a crude carving if it's a jade. However, this isn't that high of quality. So could it be natural jade that just wasn't carved like super, super well? It does sort of match in color to my ring. So it is a jade color. There's not an issue with the color that necessarily stands out as like, boom, this isn't jade, or there's something off, or there's something weird about this. Let's shine a light through it. What do you guys think? What do you think this is? Tell me in the chat. We have somebody. Old jade can also have this carving back when they didn't have power tools. That is correct. Yes, Dake is right. So you will see more crude carvings in older pieces. So when you have a piece and you're evaluating it to try to determine what it is, it's good to have a little background, like how much was paid for it, when was it purchased, where did it come from. So I can guarantee it is not nephrite. Oh, Dake thinks that this is treated. So let's go ahead. Is it time for the reveal? Ooh, no, let's scratch test it first. Let's scratch test it just for fun. So we talked about scratch testing a minute ago, where you test the scratch resistance using like the Mohs hardness scale. So there's a thing called a hardness kit, which is like a bunch of little metal pens that have different hardnesses. And then, so this one's a 6, right? So then you scratch the material, and it gives you kind of an idea of the range of hardness. So this is serpentine, and I just use this as an example. The serpentine scratched pretty easily. So that's what we're looking for when we perform the scratch test, right? Like we're looking for that line on the surface. So let's scratch this piece, not the serpentine, but the other one, and then see. So let's see if a 5 will scratch it. No, if the 5 had scratched it, probably be serpentine, right? Let's try a 6. Let's see if the 6 scratches it. If the 6 scratches it, could be nephrite, could be serpentine, could be a few different things. Didn't scratch with the 6. So now we're looking in the 6 to 7 range, maybe. Didn't scratch with the 7 either. So we know that it's at least a 7 in hardness, which tells us nothing, right? Because if it were B Jade or B+C Jade, it would have the same hardness as Jadeite Jade. And if it were quartz, it would have pretty much the same hardness as Jadeite Jade, if not a little bit harder. So this is quartz. This is not jade. It probably is treated. So I know Dake guessed that it was treated. That is correct. It's just not treated Jadeite Jade. Dake says that there are high quality yellow golden serpentines. I'm all about serpentine. I have no problem with it. I only have a problem with serpentine if it's being sold as jade. That's my only issue with it. Very good guess. Aventurine's a great guess. So, and yeah, like I'm not exactly sure where the line is that separates aventurine and quartz. Typically, you like determine aventurine if it has aventurescence, which is an effect that looks like glitter created by like small crystals of mica. But not all aventurine seems to have aventurescence. And so, yeah, it's definitely an aventurine color for sure. And it is quartz, and aventurine is a quartz. So I think that is, yeah, a very, very good. You guys in the chat are cracking me up. I love it. I love seeing so many people get excited in the chat. So, okay, we have determined that this is quartz. Now it's down to these two. One of these is natural and one of these is treated. Which one is which? Can you guys tell? We're going to go from left to right. So we're going to start with the Lingzi mushroom carving. So this is the other side of the Lingzi. There we go. There's a Lingzi right there. What do we think? Very glassy. Really good luster. Good color too. If it's real, it's got a nice price tag on it, that's for sure. Should we shine a light through it? Let's see. So this is what it looks like when we shine a light through it. And then I think we should do a black light just to see if we can see any polymer glowing. Do I have that? I do. So this is a UV light. It is not fluorescing. Now my fingernail's fluorescing. You can kind of see like the white light up, but the stone itself is not fluorescing. So let's take a look at the chat. What's everybody saying? This is fun. Shauna, you're cracking me up. I'm so glad that you're here. This is a lot of fun. Ooh, plastic is a fantastic guess. Oh my gosh. Very, very good guess. This is not plastic, but plastic could totally look like this. I'm telling you, this is hard. Like trying to determine which of these is natural and which is treated is really hard because look how similar they are. And this is the reason that we don't condone at-home testing. Look at these. I mean, look at them. And the thing is like the scratch test isn't going to distinguish them, right? If one's natural and one's treated. And you can't do the ping test with these. Like you could do specific gravity if you have methyl iodide, but do you? Are you a gemologist? Do you have like a gemologist setup? Like the at-home test can be so iffy, and it's really best to just have a gemologist test it, really. And Mason K actually offers that service. They're located in Colorado. You can send it to them. They have the proper equipment. They have FTIR, so they can actually they can tell super quick, like in like a week, which one is which. So, and I know which one is which because they already tested it and they sent me these pieces. I think these two were really great options to send. Here's the scratch test, which I know I already mentioned this. It doesn't really matter what the scratch test result is, but I just really want to drive home that like the scratch test is not going to help you distinguish natural from treated, and it's not going to help you distinguish Jadeite Jade from Quartz. It will help you distinguish Jade from Serpentine if it's like a really low hardness Serpentine, but Serpentine has a pretty wide range of hardness. And so even like the scratch test by itself, I'd say is pretty iffy. So this didn't scratch with the 7. And then what do we have here? Oh, yeah. So I put it under a microscope and I saw this little like fracture-y looking thing, but there wasn't anything that really stood out and screamed at me under the microscope. So before you guys tell me, hold on, let's see what the chat says. When are all these pieces made? Yeah. Well, that's the type of thing, like a lot of times the pieces that are being sent in for tested are older because they've been inherited, right? So that's I know it really does. They look so similar. I feel like this is such a good example to show. So before I reveal which one is natural and which one is treated, I want to really look at the other one. So this is the floral carving. Very similar in a lot of ways. Similar in color, similar in luster. This is a really cool carving. What do we think? Which one do we think is which? So we have the Lingzi, and then this is the floral carving. Let's look really close. I just love this color. See the little flowers? It's a cool piece. Let's shine a black light through it. We'll get there. It does not glow. None of the pieces I have glow. I have never had a piece. I would love to have, like, I'm always like, oh, let me see your B Jade or your C Jade or your B+C Jade, because I always want to shine a UV light on it and make it glow really bright, but I never come across pieces that do. So it's actually really disappointing for me as a YouTuber because I would love to have the example. So let's take a look at the chat. Which one is which? Oh, we think the floral is real. Do you guys agree with Shauna? Do you think the floral carving is natural Jadeite Jade? Does B Jade lose any hardness? That's a great question. So the thing about Jadeite Jade and Nephrite Jade is that hardness can actually range quite a bit. So I think it would be hard to ascertain if the hardness of a stone is what it would have been had it not been treated. But there might be some research on this somewhere that I just haven't seen. I will say, like, when I've hardness tested B Jade and B+C Jade, it hasn't been alarmingly low, or like I haven't noticed anything that's like, oh my gosh, it tests lower. Like it usually tests about the same. So Shauna was correct. And the floral carving is natural jadeite jade, meaning that it does not have any polymer impregnation. So we had quartz, we had B Jade. So B Jade on the Lingzi mushroom carving, meaning that it was acid bleached and then polymer wax or resin impregnated, probably polymer impregnated. And when Mason K got this piece, they tested it and they were able to see the polymer impregnation on their FTIR, which is a type of spectroscopy that uses a laser. And then the quartz was differentiated from the jade via refractometry. So I actually had somebody asked me, where do we get a refractometer? And I wanted to talk about this for a second because using a refractometer is actually pretty challenging. It's not that they're super, super expensive. It's just that if you aren't a gemologist, you won't have enough use for it to justify the expense. So I don't recommend just like buying a refractometer. Like a lot of what they do at GIA is actually teaching the students how to use a refractometer. So it's not super, super straightforward and simple. My recommendation instead of buying a refractometer would be to rely on the expertise of your local independent jeweler or gemologist, or send the piece in to Mason K for testing. Let's see what else we have in the chat. Shauna is a crystal whisperer. I love it. Correct. Yes, they are both jade, and one is natural and one is treated. Very good. You guys, I like how they're like, how did Shauna know? Shauna, how did you know? Were you guessing, or like, was there a way you could, like, was there something that felt off to you? Because I will say, so as a rule, if it's a really good treated jade, you're not going to be able to tell without FTIR. Like you have to send it to an advanced gemological laboratory or a company that offers advanced gemological laboratory services like Mason K. But there are cases where the treatment is like not that good and it looks like super candy-ish and it's just not, there's something off about it. There's a quality that sort of like brings up a red flag when you see it. So I am kind of curious if, yeah, Shauna was just guessing because it's so hard. It's so hard to tell, like when you're looking at it, if it's a good treated jade like that. Okay, people, what are these? I think you guys are going to get this one. So we have two strands, one on the left and one on the right, both green, but clearly very different. Now, one of these is Jadeite Jade, and the other one is not Jadeite Jade. What is it? Let's look at another comparison. And we'll look really close too. So there's actually a unique difference in color. Now, of course, we know Jadeite Jade can range quite a bit in color. So color isn't always like a for sure indicator because of the wide range. Let's look really closely at this one. What do we think of those inclusions? Does this look like Jadeite Jade? What do we think? So Dake says that the left is not, which is the one that we're looking at right now. Kimberly wonders if both are jade and one is treated. No, actually, one is jade and one is not jade. So let's look at this one. Some kind of variety and gradient in color between the beads. Little bit of imperfection, but beautiful apple green color. A really, really different luster too. I think that that's probably like the biggest difference, and it's a little hard to tell on camera, but in person, it's really noticeable that like the surface luster looks very different. The one on the left looks very glassy, and the one on the right comparatively looks so creamy. Like it's definitely, you can tell that they're different gemstones. Dake says that the right looks natural. What do you guys think? Is the right one the natural one? Or is it this one? All right, it's time for the reveal. So the left one is Aventurine Quartz, and the right one is natural Jadeite Jade. And you can see the prices here. So the Aventurine Quartz would probably only be a few $100s or so, whereas these beautiful apple green, creamy, delicious Jadeite Jade beads would be about $2,500 at a jewelry store. So it's important that you don't sell the quartz for $2,500, right? Like that's one of the main reasons that we kind of want to be aware of this issue of sellers, whether accidentally or on purpose, selling non-jades as jade, is because there's a really significant difference in value and you might really easily overpay. And additionally, what if you think, oh my gosh, I'm getting this great deal because I'm only spending $300 and it's actually just quartz and it's not jade and you're not getting a good deal, right? Like that's not fun either. So Kimberly thinks that the right one is Burmese Jadeite Jade. And I also think that the right one is Burmese Jadeite Jade. Yeah, Aventurine. Oh yeah, so let's talk about this a little bit. The Aventurine strand, look at those inclusions. Like that is not how Jadeite Jade is going to look. You kind of have this like glassy look to it, and then you have those flecks of what I think are mica. I don't know for sure, it's a little hard to say, but like they're crystals in there, like they're differently colored crystals inside of the stone, and it definitely has a quartz look to it. So aventurine is a type of quartz, but it is noticeably different in person, especially from Jadeite Jade to the trained eye. So something like this, you probably would be able to tell the difference based on the appearance. Okay, what do we think of these? And these are two separate strands. It's so confusing because they look so much alike, but they are actually different. And did I switch them? I think I accidentally switched them from left to right. Whoops, so sorry. No, I didn't. They're the same. So the left one here is the left one here. So pretty noticeable difference between the two as far as luster is concerned, even though the color is identical. So let's take a look, because with these, you're gonna go cross-eyed if you look at them side by side for too long. So let's go ahead and look at the one on the right. So this is the one on the right, and I wanted to show this particular inclusion, this black inclusion, because I felt like this was really telling. What do we think? Do we think this is jade or not jade? And then this is when you shine a light there. Look at those little like dots on the surface. What a strange look. Is this something that we would normally see in Nephrite jade? Let's see what the comments say. Russian and Canadian. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, one is jade and the other is not jade. I know this actually is the hardest one. And you guys have the disadvantage of not being able to hold them, because when you hold them in your hand, I can feel a difference, but it is much harder to see the difference. And I think that the best way to see the difference really is not side by side, but actually individually. So this is the other strand. This is the strand we haven't looked at closely yet. You can see there is a difference in luster. This one's a little bit creamier. I keep like second guessing myself because they actually look so alike that I want to make sure that I don't misrepresent them. Yeah, definitely a nephrite color. They're both a nephrite color. All right, I think it is time for the reveal. So let's show this clip. This clip is better. So the one on the right is a simulant, and the one on the left is actual nephrite jade. And it is, I think once you know, you can see the difference in the luster, because the nephrite jade looks a lot creamier and the simulant looks a lot glassier. So when I originally got a hold of the non-jade strand, I was like, this is quartz. This is definitely quartz. But look at it with the light shining through it. See that crackly kind of texture to it? I'm not sure that it's not glass. Glass and quartz can test really similarly, but they are different, even though they're both comprised of silicon and oxygen. Glass is amorphous, whereas quartz is a crystal structure. But I'm not totally sure if it's quartz or glass, but it is definitely not jade. You can see that here. So in the Canadian nephrite jade, you can see the black crystal inclusions, the greasy luster. It just overall, like, it looks more like jade, whereas the one on the left definitely looks like glass. I mean, it has an unnatural, abnormal kind of texture and like spider web thing going on in it. Let's see what we have in the chat. Yes, the veins. That's the word I should have used. So yeah, the one on the left has those veins in it, whereas the Canadian nephrite jade is dense and creamy and smooth and greasy. And in person, it's easier to tell, and especially if you can feel them, because the simulant beads, they feel like glass. Whereas the jade beads, you know how jade, when you touch it, it has that like really greasy texture. So this was a hard one. Let me show it from a different. So this was the simulant. I feel like that inclusion was a really good tell because it was just kind of weird and out of place, and it looked like a fiber. Like it looked like it was like a piece of clothing. And then also this surface texture here with that dimpling, and then also the surface texture around the drill hole makes it look a lot like glass too. So this is another close-up of the Canadian beads. Okay, guys, what questions do we have about jade testing? What sort of at-home tests do we have questions about? We discussed the ping test. We discussed specific gravity. We did not talk about the hair test. So let's talk about the hair test and any other at-home tests that you guys can think of. Leave it in the chat and I'll talk about those. There is this sort of belief, this rumor, you could say, that if you take a piece of your hair and you wrap it around your jade and then you take a lighter and you try to light it on fire, it won't burn. I think we've all heard that, right? And it's true. It is true that the hair probably won't burn. But does that distinguish the stone as jade from other gemstones? No, it does not. And if you guys have the book Jade, a Gemologist Guide from Lotus Gemology, they actually talk about it in that book. If you were to wrap hair around any crystalline material, it could be quartz, it could be natural jade, it could be treated jade, it could be sapphire, it could be anything. The way that it conducts heat is different from how glass conducts heat. So that test, the hair test, is used to distinguish crystalline materials from non-crystalline materials, not jade from other gemstones. So what else? Ooh, is this A or double A quality for the Canadian? I forgot. I think it's double A. So this is actually a really great thing that we can talk about. Where is the footage of it? There it is. Okay. Every seller is going to have their own standards for quality. It's pretty common in the realm of nephrite to see A, double A, triple A, and B quality. And then in Jadeite Jade, when you see A, B, and C, those are treatment codes. So it doesn't necessarily refer to quality the way that A and B refer to quality in Nephrite Jade. I don't know if I said that right. Maybe I didn't. But as far as the A, double A thing goes, it's going to depend on the seller and basically like what standards they have set in place internally. However, these are from Jade West, and Jade West has really, really great quality standards. But because they haven't been able to mine for the past few years, I think a lot of their like best quality is running kind of low. And I bought these last year in 2023. So I think they're probably double A, but I'm not totally sure. And to be honest, it's one of those things when you see a quality grade, you want to kind of take it with a grain of salt, just because seller to seller, you're not going to see a lot of consistency. And one of the problems that we kind of see a little bit is people being like, this is quintuple A, or this is like 6 A's or 7 A's. And it just gets out of hand. It really does get out of hand. And so I think if you're shopping and you're wondering about the quality of a piece, it's good to contact the seller directly and ask to see the piece in multiple lightings, different angles, things like that, to sort of provide that clarification that the quality grade might not necessarily have. I'm hoping to collaborate with Jade West on a video about their grading standards. And I think that would shine quite a bit of light on the grading system of Nephrite. But again, it's really important to note that like the grading system of Nephrite might sound like the treatment code system for Jadeite Jade, but they are different. They have different meanings depending on which jade you're talking about. Thank you, Shauna. That's very nice of you to say. Why does the right one have, yeah, right? Because I think it's glass. I think that's why. It's weird, right? It doesn't. So we kind of have this saying in gemology, like if it doesn't look natural, it probably isn't, right? If something looks kind of off, there probably is something off. And if it's too good to be true, probably is. Like it's probably not true. So yeah, if it's, even though testing is necessary and you want to have a gemologist test your piece to tell you exactly what the stone is. There are signs sometimes that things can look a little bit off. And yeah, the appearance of the drill holes on the Simulant strand were definitely one of those things. What does Dake have to say? I noticed that too. More and more Russian green now. Oh yeah, I'm very excited about it. I love seeing the array of Nephrite origins. Yeah, Jade West has been selling Russian, I think, for a while. And they actually, I think you guys saw in my Tucson Gem Show video, they had these really beautiful Russian cat's eye beads that were like incredible, just amazing. I love Jade West, and you can shop with them directly at jademine.com, or you can ask your local jeweler to buy from them. But yeah, they have a lot of really, really cool stuff, and they do have other origins other than just Canadian if you're looking for something specific. What other tests do you guys have questions about? A Chelsea filter is something that a gemologist might use, but it's not always totally reliable. So there is a special Chelsea filter for jadeite, and a Chelsea filter really should be used by a professional gemologist or someone with gemological training. But in my experience, a lot of the gemologists I know that test jade don't rely on the Chelsea filter because, again, it's one of those tests where you would still have to perform a bunch of other tests in conjunction with it. And so it's not really considered that reliable in determining if a stone is jade. What other tests do we have questions about? I know we talked about the UV light. We talked about specific gravity. We talked a little bit about the Chelsea filter and the ping test. And what else? There's the cold test, which doesn't work because lots of gemstones are cold. There's the weight test, which doesn't work because lots of gemstones are heavy, right? So it's one of those things where your home tests might be sort of an indicator, but they also they might steer you in the wrong direction. I saw one time a website was telling people, if you wonder if your jade is real, throw it on the ground and see if it breaks. And I was like, don't do that. Like, don't throw it on the ground because it might break, right? And we always say jade's the toughest stone in the world. That requires some clarification because jade has a range of toughness. Both jades do. Nephrite jade and Jadeite jade both have a range of toughness and can be weakened in spots where there may be internal fractures. So with that in mind, it can break. Don't throw your jade at a brick wall. Don't drop it on a concrete floor. And you know what really gets people? The tile in their bathroom. Don't drop it on the tile in your bathroom, and don't drop it to test it. When I worked in a jewelry store, we had a customer who wondered if his diamond was real, and so he hit it with a hammer. And he came in and he said, I hit my diamond with a hammer and it didn't break, so it must be real. And we had to explain to him that actually, if the hammer didn't break your diamond, it's probably not a diamond, because a real diamond probably would break under a hammer. So there's a lot of misconceptions out there, and you don't have to do destructive testing. You don't have to do testing that does damage to your precious like piece of jewelry. You can just have a gemologist test it. It's not that big of a deal. Your local jewelry store might be able to do it. As far as distinguishing natural from treated jade, your local jewelry store probably can't do that, but they can send your piece to Mason K for testing, or you can send your piece to Mason K for testing. You don't have to throw your jade at the ground. Let's take a look at the chat. Oh, Michael, hey, I'm so glad that you're here. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. Just got a few rough blocks of, guys, is it just me, or does every live turn into like a party where we talk about how much we love Mayan Mountain? Where's Jesse at? Jesse, are you here? So yeah, I love the Guatemalan Blue Jadeite Jade. I am super excited for you. And this is a great opportunity to plug the Discord. Guys, if you have not signed up for the Jewels of the Trade Discord, I highly recommend it. It is a wonderful community of jade researchers and sellers and carvers and collectors. And it's just a jade party all the time. So if you have really cool pieces that you want to share photos of, share them in the Discord. We would love to see them. Shauna, if I ever buy jade other than Jesse's, see, oh, Mason K is the best. We love Mason K because, yeah, they test every single piece and they test it in-house so that they can offer a guarantee. So, yeah, I mean, I think every jade seller has wonderful things to offer, and there's a huge variety of types of jades out there. And one jade seller can't sell every type of jade probably because there's just too much, and it's all so unique and wonderful. I love Mason K and I love Mayan Mountain, and basically any seller that you're going to see on my channel, I I like them. I think they're awesome. So be sure to check out the videos in my Gem Travels playlist because those feature a variety of sellers too. Dake, what's my favorite piece that I own? Me? Probably my ring. But I'm really thinking about getting that white jade bangle. So that'll probably be my favorite when I get it. But I haven't gotten it yet. Oh, hi, Shauna. All right, guys. Well, that's everything I have. Next week, we have another really exciting live on Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to leave in the comments any suggestions that you have for future lives and join the Discord and share your Jade collection with the group. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.